Okay, folks, so we are going to now enter this next section of thinking through your virtual choir, quote unquote, rehearsal. And I hope that you found a lot of good things to think about and consider in planning for how students are going to enter the rehearsal. And now we want to think about some of these materials that we can utilize in which we can help them when they are not under our watchful care in our classrooms. So the first thing I want you to think about are the materials, right? And depending on how you have structured at-home work, if you've had at-home work for your class before or not, kind of depends on this next section. So I was thinking through what are things that you need to be aware of as you're planning how you are going to actuate the next week, couple weeks, months, whatever. And I thought, we really need to know what are the materials that students use in your class each and every day, right? So if you go and download to the right of this, you'll see a planning sheet with my things that I use consistently every day in a classroom and things that you do as well. You might add more or less to that. But some of that is just from literally me. My students are used to having me with them every single day, and how depending on what your rehearsal structure is like and how teacher-centric it is will depend on you are a material. I mean, you're more than a material, but you know what I mean? You are a resource that students use every single day, and you've got to be thinking through how much they depend on you to guide them through things, and then how much you're then going to need to continue to guide them through things, even though you are not in person with them. So going through and identifying, just checking off, what are materials that students use every day, and then what are the materials that students are going to have access to outside of the classroom or rehearsal space every day. Once you've determined those, you need to think through what are the materials that students are going to need outside of my classroom and rehearsal. And this is a critical point, because this is going to help you determine what materials you are going to be utilizing in the next couple days. And then when you think through what materials students are going to need through the next day, so for example, if you think they're going to need a piano, then on the bottom of that sheet, you're going to write material piano, and next to it, write what is the function of that piano, right? So if the function of that piano is to give them a starting pitch, then on next sheet, we'll think about what are tools that they can take that function. And if they don't have a piano at home, how are they going to get starting pitches? And that's a broad example, right? But if singers legitimately, another material is the singer next to them, right? We all have students that they are dependent upon the person next to them to help them, figure out where they're at or keep them on their part or something like that. So thinking through that, and then thinking through how you can utilize that same function but in a different way. So I just wanted to get you thinking, and you can run these off or put them on your iPad or just jot down on a sheet of paper next to you. Again, the goal is to get us to really be thinking through, what do students have? What do they have it for? And then if they don't have access to it, then what can I do to mitigate that lack of access and find a way around that in this virtual time? So for example, let's say there is a student beside them and that they really depend on, and that function is to keep them on their part. So then you'll go to the second planning guide sheet and you'll write down the function. And then I want you to think through, based on what materials students have at home, how can you provide a way for them to still have that functionality to ultimately be successful. So if, student A is used to standing next to student B to help them with certain things, then maybe it is connecting them online or via phone numbers, or having a rehearsal tree, kind of like a phone tree, but a rehearsal tree to where they call in and check in with each other and see what questions the other person has, right? Nothing says that you have to be the be-all, end-all for answering questions for students during this time. I think it's a really awesome opportunity for you to promote collaboration through this. So that is just a big example of how I challenge you to think about what the materials are. Do you know what they have? Do they know how to use them? And then ultimately, what can students do without you to be successful? And then what kind of materials can you give them that serve a function that you need that enables them to be successful as well. So in this next video, we will talk about ways that you can utilize certain materials to achieve certain functions as we go into tips, ideas, and implementations.